It's April. This month is all about the fantasy reads. And let me tell you, I have read some fantasy. I've read a lot of fantasy. Maybe too much fantasy, some would say. But not me! Okay, so monthly recommendation, as always, was started by Trina and Kayla, who are wonderful, wonderful people. So I will link all the information down below so you can check it out, maybe find more reads or join the group yourself, because why not? Now, I took the fantasy recommendation suggestion a little further by deciding that I wanted to do fantasy reads with strong female characters. I really like fantasy reads where the woman stands up and creates some kind of change or just disrupts everything. I like creating chaos, so I appreciate that in another character. I will also start out my recommendations with lighter fantasy reads and slowly build up to those heavier, denser, epic world building reads, so that way you know where you could start and where you could end up if you decided to follow the path I laid down, or you can deviate at any point because they're all good. They need to be read. To start out with, I had to mention all of the Immortal Series by Tamara Pierce. Each of these series are set in the world and the kingdom of Tortal, and each series is centered around a very strong female lead, which is why I'm giving it to you now. Not only that, but these reads are very easy to get into. Usually the series starts when the character is young, and so you start to get this introduction to the world and to the people, and then you grow with her, which really helps in fantasy reads if you haven't read a lot of them before and you're not used to diving into world without knowing anything. The Immortal series starts out with the Song of the Lioness series, which is about Alana, who decides that she wants to be a knight, and heaven forbid she decides to be a knight and be female at the same time. Of course, that isn't very accepted at this point, so she goes undercover as her brother and goes through knight school, if that makes sense. She learns how to be a knight, essentially. Throughout the series, she's getting to know the men that will be working alongside her and defending the kingdom and learning everything that it is to be a knight, and who cares that she's a girl? She breaks that boundary, and I love it. After Alana and the Lioness series, there is the Immortal series with Diana and her wild magic and ability to talk to animals. This is such a wonderful series for a slightly different reason. Diana starts to set about change for the animals inside of the Immortal series. And I will admit, I have more than once dreamed of being able to talk to animals. And she does. And I'm a little bit jealous. And then you have Kel, who decides that she wants to follow Alana's journey into knighthood, except for she doesn't have to hide the fact that she is female. She becomes the first official trainee female in knight school, and so she starts to learn how to be a knight and at the same time not being stuck in Alana's shadow, and she herself learns how to be that strong lead without having to be compared to somebody else, which is what we all hope to accomplish someday, right? Then there is the Trickster Duology, in which Allie, who is the daughter of one of the past Tortal heroines, is kidnapped and shipped off to one of the island kingdoms, where she has to learn how to survive and maybe in the process make relationships better between her own kingdom and the one she finds herself acting as slave. She is a very go-getter kind of person. She's always dreamed of being a spy, and so this just sets her out on that journey. And finally, we have the Becca Cooper series, which technically takes place before Alana's story in Song of the Lioness. This gives you a backstory of Tortal and how things started to fall into place. And this is just Becca trying to survive in a very harsh world with some interesting magical powers that, of course, always makes life more interesting. The Tortal series are a very good place to start if you haven't read a lot of fantasy before, because you just start reading and it flows. And I like that about that series. And it's technically the first huge set of books that ever really got me into fantasy. Then there is Hunter by Mercedes Lackey. This is a mix between fantasy and dystopian, which is interesting if you think about it, how a world can suddenly become a fantasy realm if a certain series of events were to happen. In this book, Joy is a hunter. Hunters are the people who protect the citizens that are left in this world from the dark creatures that have started to invade. These creatures are based on all kinds of mythologies from all different religions and all different cultures, which really gets this book into a very interesting place because it's not just one mythology or culture that really influences this book, it's all of them, and to see them all in one place is kind of epic. Now Joy, she has always been trained to be this hunter, warrior-like person, but she gets thrown into this city where she has to learn the politics of everything and try not to be used in a way she doesn't want to be used. So she learns how to stand on her own 2 feet and decide what is right. And finally, the newest fantasy read that I have found and have fallen in love with, and that is the Mistborn series. This takes place in a world that has been completely devastated. There's this huge class dysfunction. There's the Scar and then the upper class, and then there's this Lord Ruler who is basically suppressing everyone and seems to have lived for a very long time, which is never a good idea. But in this story, Vin, who is a common thief, starts to realize that she might have this elemental power, or allomancy in this world is where people can ingest metals and enhance abilities like speed and sight and smell and all of those kind of things. And so she is off to help maybe set right what the Lord Ruler has done. And it's a great read. If you haven't read it before, I say try it. You never know. So those are a few fantasy reads that I highly recommend. And if you have any more, let me know. I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.